Hi everyone and welcome. So I'm sure that majority of you have seen the 50 artist Pantone collaboration floating around. And for those of you who may not know, this challenge was created by the one and only Christine from Courageous Painting. And she has asked 49 other artists to help her restore the rainbow bridge that once connected our human world to the monster universe. And to do that, each artist will need to use 2 Pantone colors, one being Mike's choice and the other being our choice. So let's go ahead and see what color Mike has chosen for us so we can help restore this bridge.
Thank you for being so courageous and using your creativity to help restore the monster universe. Mike is ready to pick out your second color. Spin the wheel. Woo, we're getting close to the end here. What is that? Oh, 29. Oh, that's a pretty one. Now that you've got your color, it's up to you to use it in any creative project to help restore the rainbow bridge. Mike and I can't wait to see what you create.
So I feel like Mike was definitely on my side when it came to picking my color because a little over a year ago, I had sketched out an idea that involved one of my characters that I had created in my Create This book. And that character is Miss Lila here. And in that piece that I was going to recreate, I was actually going to be using a very similar color to Tiger Lily. And that piece was actually going to be saved for a prompt in the second Create This book. But after Mike picked that color for me, I just couldn't pass it up. But let's go ahead and see what color I picked. And I chose Mimosa because yellow also plays a very important role in this piece, and you'll see why later. But let's go ahead and start preparing our colors. Okay, so I have my colors pulled up on my computer screen here since I don't own any of the actual cards. So hopefully the colors aren't too off, but we're just working with what we got here. And for the Tiger Lily, I actually feel like my Kelly Art Vermilion paint almost matches this to a T. So I feel like I got really lucky there and won't have to change that up too much to get that color. And then as far as the Mimosa goes, I feel like these 2 yellows look really close to it. So I'm going to start off by mixing these 2 together. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So first I'm going to use my medium yellow and then add some Naples yellow and some of my titanium white paint. And I'm just going to mix that up and see what we're working with. And it's still looking a little too bright, so I'm just going to add some more of that white and a little more of the medium yellow to kind of darken it up. I'm going to spread it to the edge so that way I can take it over to my computer and to see how close we are. And it's still looking a little too bright and yellow. The Mimosa looks a little bit more orangey, so I'm going to go ahead and add some orange to it and mix that up. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. And I feel like that's pretty close. I think that's probably about as close as I'm going to get it. So we're going to go with this. And now we can go ahead and start working on our painting. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is tone my canvas with the Tiger Lily color. And that just helps to warm up my painting. And it also helps prevent any of the white of the canvas from peeking through. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let this dry and then we will be right back. Okay, so it did darken up quite a bit, but that's okay. Now we are going to start working on the sky, and I'm going to use some magenta here. And I'm just going to spread a line across the top. And then between each color I use, I am also going to apply some white. And then I'm going to use some pinks and reds and oranges and yellows. And once I get to the middle of the canvas, I'm going to flip it the opposite way, which I'm not going to add as much to the bottom because there's going to be mostly grass at the bottom, but I am creating a little pond and I want there to be a reflection of the sky in it. And once I get all my paint laid out, I'm just going to take my flat brush and start blending it all together until I get it looking the way that I want it to. Okay. So as far as the edges go, I'm not going to fixate on them too much because I actually have a very special plan for the border of this. I'm actually going to be making something for the border, but you'll have to wait and see. But yeah, let's go ahead and let this dry. So I'm just going to go in and do a very simple sketch of where I want my pond to go. And right about here is where I want the reflection to be. So I'm just trying to map out where I want all of the water and the land to go. And that's basically all I just need to do for my sketch. And now I'm going to go in with my palette knife here to create some mountains. And I'm going to go in with a darker gray first to create my base layer. And I'm just going to scrape it in all kinds of different directions to get my peaks. And then once my base layer is done, I'm going to go in with a lighter shade to create my highlights. And then I decided that I also wanted to include some of the colors that I used in the sky, even though you're not going to see them that much once I add layers, but I wanted just a little bit of it peeking through. And then I'm going to go in and add the rest of my highlights and shadows. And once that's done, I'm going to scrape on some green at the bottom, and then that is where I'm going to start adding my tree line. Okay, and before I get started on the pond, I'm just going to do a quick base layer of where I want the grass in the background, and then I'll also add the reflection of the tree line. And then for the pond, I'm going to be using 3 different shades of blue with some white for highlights, and I'm using my fan brush to create the water strokes, and I'm going to create more of those strokes towards the edges of the pond, and then as I work my way into the center, I'm going to spread those strokes out more, so that way I can really show off the reflection of the sky. And then I'm going to take a lighter green and start dabbing it on top of the darker green just to create a little bit more dimension. And to add some more of that mimosa color, I'm going to dab some of that all over the grassy areas just to give the appearance of wildflowers. And while I wait for that to dry, I'm going to start working on the edges of the pond. And now I'm going to try something that I haven't tried before, and I'm going to try to create sun rays because I really want to use a little bit more of that mimosa color, especially because there's going to be a lot of the tiger lily in this painting, so I want to break it up just a little bit more. And again, I'm going to be adding a border to this, so I'm not too worried about everything reaching the edges perfectly. And now I'm going to go ahead and start adding some trees. And now I'm just going to use a little bit of that tiger lily to add some more flowers throughout the background. And now we can officially start working on the foreground. And for my base layer, I'm just going to mix a medium and a darker green together. And then I'll go back over it with a much lighter green to create more texture. And I am going to leave a little patch right in the center because that is where my characters will be going. Okay, so this is the section of the video where when I told you in the very beginning that I had pre-sketched out an idea a little over a year ago where I was going to be using a very similar color to tiger lily. And that's because I'm creating a field of poppy flowers. So when I saw that color picked, I just knew that I had to switch gears and turn that idea into this painting for this collaboration instead. And I tell you what, making all of these flowers took an insanely long time. So for the next little section, I am going to fast forward that for you. And I really wasn't thinking when I did this, but red and green do cancel each other out. So as the red dried, it did become a lot darker. So I decided to add some white on top of it and then reapply the color to try to brighten it back up. And I just go back and forth between using the mimosa and the tiger lily colors to create these flowers. And then I did feel like the tree line looked a little bit too dark for my liking, so I just brightened it up a little bit more with some lighter green. And then of course, back to the flowers we go. And I just added a layer of grass and more flowers and more grass and more flowers and so on. And now I can finally start painting the base layer of Miss Lila here. That way I have a better idea of where I want the rest of the flowers to go around her. And as I work my way down the painting, I'm going to make the flowers much larger, and I'm also going to use thicker paint and really layer it up so that way you can see the different layers in the petals. And I also added a little bit more flowers in the back because I felt like it was just a little too disconnected. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep adding some more layers and details and lots of grass. And now I actually need a little break from all the painting because it's been taking a while, and I want to start working on the border that I have planned because those are probably going to take a while to make as well, and I want to make sure that I have plenty of time for those to dry. So first I need something to paint on and some paper towels, and I'm going to fold my paper towel the long way. And then I need some scissors because I am going to cut this into 4 different sections. And now I'm just going to cut out different petal shapes. And the reason why I folded it was so that way I could get 2 petals in one cut. But yeah, I'm going to quickly cut out the rest of these. And for the center of my poppy flowers, I'm just going to cut a strip along the sides so I'm not wasting as much paper towels. And then when I do go to paint these, I will end up cutting them. Now I'm going to take a paintbrush with water, and I'm going to get all my petals wet first. And then I'm going to go over them with my mimosa and my tiger lily colors, and then just keep blending them. And now I just have to hang all of these up and let them dry. So I'm going to start doing that, and I'm going to show you my little setup here. So I just took some string and threaded it through some clips here, and then I tied the string to my ring lights. And now I just wait for them to dry. All right, and now they are all dry, so we can go ahead and start taking them down, and then I can show you how I'm going to assemble them. All right, so we have all of our pieces here. And I'm going to need some glue and some scissors. And for the flower centers, I'm just going to do a bunch of little cuts, only going about halfway. And then I'm going to take my glue here, and I'm going to start rolling these up. And I'm actually going to use this little guy here to make it a little bit easier. And once it's all rolled up, I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to keep it together. And then I'm going to start picking out some of my petals, starting with my smallest and gradually adding bigger and bigger ones to create the poppy. And these actually took me way longer than I thought they would, mostly because of the dry time. So I had to actually set up a whole new station and take string and attach it to my table so I could hang more petals at once. And even then, I only got about 3 to 4 poppies per row. So yeah, and as you can see, this is the setup that I had. Honestly, I'm just so glad that I had a bunch of cardboard boxes laying around because this process got so messy. So here is the poppy flower all done. And I actually made another one off camera so I can show you that one really quick. And I think I like this one a little bit better. But all of the other ones are going to get made off camera and glued on when the painting is done. So let's go ahead and jump back to the painting. Okay, and now I'm finally going to start painting Lila, and we are officially at the part of the video where I can tell you the story of what inspired this painting. So in the Create This Book 2, there is a prompt where you're supposed to create a comic strip. So I came up with a little storyline based off of Lila, and I am going to tell you that story. So, once upon a time, there was a fluffy-tailed little fox named Lila, who loved nothing more than to frolic around fields of flowers. During one warm and sunny day, she was leaping and pouncing through a field of poppies. Those were her favorite. And as she gracefully plopped herself down to catch her breath, she looked over and saw something very small laying just a few feet beside her. As curiosity crept, she found herself taking in deep breaths, trying to sniff out what it was. Jumping back from being startled, she noticed it started to wiggle, and cracks began to spread across it, and out wobbled the tiniest, cutest little duckling. Lila, feeling so much joy at the sight of a new friend, danced circles around the duckling, coming to a halt and lowering herself to the ground. She was now face to face with the little duckling and said, "I think I'll call you Poppy." And that is the story behind it. I hope that you enjoyed it. Anyways, so I ended up having to use a little safety pin for the eyes since they're so little. And I also do go back in and fix her beak because Poppy was looking a little more chicken-like. So I end up widening the beak to make her look more like a duckling. And then now I'm just going to quickly finish painting the rest of these flowers and adding some more grass. All right, and now we can officially start adding the border. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go in and use my hot glue gun and add about 30 more flowers to this border. But for you, I'm going straight to the glamour shots. Thank you so much, Christine, for allowing me to help restore the Rainbow Bridge. And now that I've helped restore 2 more colors, it is my turn to introduce the next artist partaking in this challenge. And that artist is Stardust from Drawing with Stardust. So come on back in a couple of weeks to see what colors she'll be using to help reconnect the human world to the monster universe.